So the next part of our trip is going to be up the Calden Canal. So we're still in the potteries, but we're branching off out into the countryside. So the Calden Canal comes up here, and then it splits into two, and up here we have the Leek branch right out in the middle of nowhere, and then afterwards down here it goes down to a place called Crumble. So we're going to do the Leek branch first and spend a day or two up there because the weather forecast isn't brilliant, and then we're going to try and go down here, and at the end of this there is something called the Crumble tunnel, which is really low, and looking at our boat I don't think it'll go through it, so we'll see if we can go up to it and then we'll wind and turn around and come back down there. But after being in Stoke for a few days, it's going to be nice to be out in the countryside and hopefully do a bit of exploring and a bit of foraging and see if there's anything at Leek. We've got a really windy day, a misjudgment on a bridge, and we've stuck in the bank. So Henry's trying to pole us off from the front. Problem is it's picking up bits of wood in the back, but I think we've done it. Not helped by the wind, but we're through. It just happened again. The trouble is we've got a really strong broadside wind today, so you line yourself up for a tunnel and then the wind blows you too far over, and then when you're trying to manoeuvre, because the water gets shallower and there's all sorts of reeds and bits of wood there, it starts getting into the prop, and then a boat comes the other way, so you have to pole off from the front and line yourself up again and try to go against the wind. So windy days are a bit problematic, but anyway, we're on the straight and narrow now for the time being. Oh, they're behind a bush. That's it. Keep the bow around to the right. Breathe in.
Hold your breath.
And then we went into Milton and found this amazing bookshop, and the very dry sense of humour of the owner was reflected in the titles of the books that he had on display. They were really making us giggle, especially this one. And when we went inside, he opened up a door at the back of the shop and we had to look at some more books. It was like going into Mr. Ben's. For those of you who remember Mr. Ben, just a brilliant place.
Probably practical. You go in and I'll show you where it is.
And these were some of the treasures that we found. Book for Henry. Lots of history in this one. And I found a Hilary Mantel that I haven't read, and a couple of other novels. Fab. And shortly after we came to the divide. Up to the left there is the Caldon, and we're going up the Leek. Today we are venturing down the Leek arm off Calden Canal, and it's beautiful out here. The canals are really narrow and they're quite shallow at the edges, and we battled up yesterday and got stuck twice on the side and had to rock the boat off, and then when we tried to moor up earlier on we got stuck again. So this branch only goes on for about 3 miles, so we're just going up to the end to have a look, try to do some shopping and maybe more overnight, but it is tricky. We're sort of buffeting our way through the bridges as we go. So as you can see, there's not much room, but it is very pretty. And this is the tiniest boat I've seen, little Edna. This is the sort of space you have to manoeuvre through bridges, just a few inches on either side. And a lot of the bridges have big chunks taken out of them where people misjudge them. It's not always easy. So the bridge we just went through was Bridge 7, and the canal ends just after Bridge 9, and there's a winding hole there, so...
This is a winding hole?
Yeah, but it's after Bridge 9, my love. So we'll turn around there, and we're just keeping an eye out for mooring spots because we're not sure if we'll be able to moor at the end of the canal here. There's a row of boats coming up here this morning, so we'll probably all be fighting for space. But there's a few mooring spots here and there. We're just keeping an eye on the side because it's so narrow in places. Oops, talking of which. Well, we managed to pole off that, but we nearly had it happen again because of that in the canal. So it's quite challenging, this canal, beautiful as it is. So we made it up here in one piece, albeit wet, and that bridge behind is the last one, and immediately after it is a winding hole, so I had to come through it, turn 360 degrees and reverse up to this spot, and the bloke in front of us pulled in a bit and helped pull us in. If you don't do that, then you go up here to the end of the canal and you would have to reverse back down. So we're now going to stay here for a day or two because the weather forecast isn't great and it's in the middle of nowhere and looks like a really nice spot to explore. Do some housework. So challenging, but worth it. And that, mes amis, is the end of the line.
You're sitting on the boat. Oh, it sort of goes down there, but oh no. Take the boat down there.
No, definitely not. Well, it used to go on further. It's probably... You wouldn't be able to win there because it's so shallow there, you'd get wedged on it. And And this is part of Leek. It turned out to be a lovely place, just the sort of town you always hope to find at the end of the canal. We hope to come back here again and do some more exploring another time. Beautiful place. On our walk into Leek, we found some wild raspberries, so we've just come back to pick them, which is good because the blackberries are not at all ripe yet. So, oh, there's loads here. We were looking around on our OS app and found a plague stone. This is part of a medieval cross that was set up in the corner of the village for farmers to put food for the local people during the bubonic plague, and they would have put their payments in bowls of vinegar. So, although the cross has been there since the time of the plague, it turns out that it was actually there not to mark the outskirts of the village for the purposes of commerce, but it marks the site of 3 skeletons that were found in a grave there, thought to be 3 knights on horses who fought. 2 of them were Celts and 1 was a Brit, and this was way back in the 14th century, and they fought and killed each other, and the local people laid them side by side, covered them with stones, and that cross marked the spot. And that's probably why that road is said to be haunted. In olden days they said that horses wouldn't go there. And now we're following this track down because on our OS maps it shows a picture of a little train at the end, and we're off to see if we can find it. Oh, no access here. It's the end of the line. I think we'll be able to get to it from the other canal when we go up there, maybe tomorrow. Walking back along the ghost track of the original railway. At the end of the day, a bonanza of raspberries. Well, we got such a big haul of raspberries that I've decided to make a crumble. So I've cooked some down, only for a couple of minutes, and I'm going to make my crumble with ground almonds and desiccated coconut rather than flour. And I don't really have a recipe for it, so I'll put in, whoops, always happens. So roughly equal quantities of ground almonds and coconut. Still too much almonds. Okay, that's better. And then usually with a crumble you would have half fat to flour, but because the ground almonds have got so much oil in them, you can get away with using less butter than that. So I just just put that there and turn it in. So it's not exactly like a crumble mix, it's a little more clumpy. You're just breaking the butter down into the mix really. And I don't add sugar to mine because I find that the coconut and the almonds are sweet enough. But if you want a bit more crunch on the top, then you can just sprinkle sugar on the top before you put it in the oven. So in go my lovely 3 raspberries. Crumble on top. And pop that in the oven for about 10 minutes, doesn't need any more than that. Well, on a really rainy Sunday afternoon, Henry is practicing his knots from his new knot book.
Make a monkey fist knot.
How are you getting on with it? And meanwhile, we have been out in the pouring rain to get another stash of raspberries because we couldn't let them go. And I'm going to make some jam with this batch. Now I don't make my jam the usual way because I'm not a fan of all that sugar. So what I do is I get the fruit, give it a very gentle cook, hardly anything at all, just to soften it down. And then a tiny bit of sweetening to taste. And that'll be enough for me. And basically, I'm now going to add some chia seeds. And you measure it roughly, so it's about 1 cup of fruit, which I guess that is, to 1 tablespoon of chia seeds. And you just stir those in. And while the whole thing cools down, the chia seeds will swell and take on a jelly-like texture and set the jam. Obviously, because it hasn't got all that sugar in, it won't last as long as an ordinary jar of jam, but I just put whatever extra I don't need in the freezer and use it, and the bit that you are using, just keep it in the fridge and it will last for a good week or so. So there we go, mixed in, and I'll show you how it's set later. So that's a couple of hours later and it's cooled down and set. So that's how you make a chia seed jam. Super easy. We found that we were moored right by a scrap merchant's in Leek. So we're able to finally get rid of the calorifier that's been in our engine bay for the last few weeks. Hopefully you get 20 quid for it. What did you get for it?
What do you think? Have a guess.
20 quid.
No, more.
Oh, 25.
No.
30?
Yeah.
30 quid?
Yeah, I think 33 actually.
Excellent. Pay for the cream tea tomorrow.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, oops, that's us done on the Leek. I'm just going to turn now and go up the Caldon. Whoops! Damn. Anyway, that's the end of this video. We'll see you on the next one when we see what delights the Caldon has to offer. Bye for now.